James Hooper, welcome to Inspector Toolbelt Talk. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ian. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really glad to have you because we're going to talk today about commercial inspections again. And you are a good example, in my opinion, of somebody who has has done a very well transitioning from home inspections into commercial inspections and being able to manage both. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the hard transition from home inspections to commercial inspections. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, James.
Well, I live in Portland, Oregon, and started Bridgetown inspections in 2018, 2019, and was working at UPS at the same time. And so I just I want to say lucky, I got blessed meeting the right people at the right time. So I think my first year I did almost 200 inspections or something like that, and working a full-time job. So we're talking about during conference calls and crawl spaces and conference calls and attics and trying to navigate that.
Wow.
And then in 2000, I was getting calls for commercial inspections around 2020, 2021. And I was doing them part as Bridgetown, but I didn't know squat what I was doing at all. And I was getting more and more phone calls. And finally, in 2024, that's when I launched Oregon Commercial Inspections. And then now I've been running both companies.
I can't imagine working a full-time job and doing 200 inspections a year. Did you just pass out December 31st?
It was hard, and the saving grace on it was, UPS had hired like a new CEO, and they were trying to do like cutbacks and all that stuff, and I was making pretty good at UPS, and so then they offered a buyout. So they offered to give me cash, like a severance package, for me to leave. And so, it was the May 1st was the day where I just did May 1st, 2019 was the first day where I'm like, I didn't have to worry about that. And I just did that. But it was hard. I won't lie.
Yeah, I can imagine. And people have paid me to leave too, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, that was a really good time too to get into the home inspection industry. We had the 2020 through 2022 boom ish, like late 2021.
Yep.
That was a big boom period for the home inspection industry. It made and broke companies all over the place.
Yep.
So you got in just before that. You were able to ride out that wave, have an established company, and then you transitioned into commercial inspections, which is really what we want to dive into because you've been there, you've done that, and from what I
Mhm.
understand, like even scheduling this podcast, you're like, oh, I got 3 commercial inspections, or I got this big one, and all my guys are on it. You're busy commercial inspecting, aren't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. I think last week was our first time we had 5 commercial inspections in one week.
That's a lot.
So I think last week or 2 weeks ago, that was the first time when I had to actually say no to a home inspection.
Wow.
And mostly just because I could have done it, but I strive not to do a commercial and a home in the same day. Um, but yeah, last week was the first week where I actually told somebody, I just like, man, I can't do it this week. And I was able to actually push it this week, but still, um, you have to find that balance, and you have to just protect your time and ride the wave.
So let me ask you, because maybe this leads into our subject even a little bit more. Why don't you like to do a home inspection and a commercial inspection on the same day?
Dude, I don't even like to do 2 home inspections on the same day.
Hmm.
One is you're wearing different hats. You're utilizing different systems, and then the last thing for me is by the time you get done, I'll be honest, you're just exhausted.
Hmm.
You know, commercial inspections I feel like are more fun. They're easier,
Less emotional.
less emotional, but man, I you're doing a lot more. You're doing a lot more walking,
Yeah, you get your steps in.
so you definitely get your steps in. And it's just, but I just don't like to do 2. I think it's a personal preference, not anything else.
Yeah, and that was always my personal preference too.
Mhm.
If even on a small scale, if I did a small scale one, like a small scale commercial inspection, like I like the quintessential pizza place or something like that,
Mhm.
it was hard for me to even just change my mentality because we were talking about this before the show about our subject, transitioning from home inspections to commercial inspections. Most inspectors they'll like email me, "Hey Ian, I have a logo and I do commercial inspections now. Can you, one, my favorite, add a page to my home inspection website?" And then they just say they do commercial inspections, or they just throw something together. And ChatGPT made their logo, and it's cartoony. It looks more like a home inspection logo. And as we get into the discussion, one guy asked me, "What do you mean it looks like a home inspection logo? It's a commercial building." It it's even the perception of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a whole different world. It's a lot harder than most of us really realize when we transition into it. Would you agree with that?
100%. It's your contacts are different. Your communication style, what you did in homes, is not going to float you. And sooner or later, as you are performing more and more, it's like, okay, the commercial industries is small, right? I would say that it's
Mm-hmm.
on the incline and it's young, right? Versus
Yep.
home inspection is kind of older. Home inspections, I always say, is like the older brother of commercial inspection. So it's the industry is relatively young. And this is the time for you to set yourself apart from everybody else. And if you are just fumbling through it and not communicating well, that's going to scar your name immediately.
Yep.
So, it's like, well, I would use so and so, but, man, he didn't. There are a bunch of you can get away with misspelled words and all that stuff in home inspections, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
with commercial, it's just a different league. You're not playing minor baseball anymore, in my opinion. So for that reason, I think that's what is one of the main difficulties. Is you're thinking that it's a home inspection, but it's not.
Yeah.
So.
We as people just like to do what we know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said just because we're good at a business doesn't mean we're good at business.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a lot of us, like I was a contractor before, a lot of us has a background like me. The transition from contractor to home inspector was easy. And you were talking about this before the show. If you run a home inspection company like you're a contractor, you'll still be okay. Like you'll make
Mm-hmm.
it. And you can refine a little bit over time.
Mm-hmm.
You have to change your mentality a bit, but it's not a huge leap.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, even I thought when I started doing commercial inspections, oh, it's the same thing as a home inspection. I just replicate what I do. And man, I kicked my butt, especially
Mm-hmm.
my first couple of big ones. I'm just like, they expect way more out of me
Yep.
professionally. Like the reporting, ironically, is way easier. Like there's more of it, but it's way, way easier to report on a commercial building, in my opinion.
I love it so much more.
Yeah, it's so much easier. And especially on big ones, I always used contractors. So I would just take their information, scan it in, type up my own comments on it, and like that whole section's done.
Yep.
And depending on how we choose to do it. But it's the professionalism part that really makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So what this is the question I get all the time,
Yep.
and I bring this up almost every commercial podcast. Separate website and business name. What's your opinion?
100%.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people have called me and said that, hey, we found you because, it seems like a lot of other people are home inspectors.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this as gently as I can. If you if you are my competitor and you are performing commercial inspections as a home inspector, I I'm specifically telling people, if they decide not to use me, that's good. Just don't use a home inspector because, and I can tell you why later.
I mean, it's a marketing. It's not even a marketing advantage. A marketing advantage says kind of denotes like just a little bit of an edge. It's not even
Mm-hmm.
an edge. It's a completely different ballpark.
Yep.
It's kind of like I relate it to doctors. If I'm looking for a podiatrist, that's a foot doctor, right? Yeah, foot doctor. I don't know what doctors
I
do.
don't know. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
That's a cardiologist. I know what that is. That's so I'm looking for a cardiologist, and I see a doctor who does like, you know, like who's those guys that crack our chiropractors? They crack our
Yeah.
backs and stuff like that. Chiropractor, and I also do cardiology.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be like, well, I'll just find somebody that does cardiology.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's an exact illustration, but that's how commercial buyers and building owners see home inspector versus a commercial inspector. Will you still pick up some commercial inspections here or there? Yeah, sure. You'll get the pizza places and maybe a small warehouse or two once in a great while. But if they're calling James Hooper and me, who has a commercial page on our home inspection website, and my company's
Hmm.
name is ABC Home Inspections,
Yeah.
James is getting that inspection.
I simply say just make sure that they're certified, make sure that they, I also have $1 million insurance. A lot of home inspectors don't have that because they don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already been asked to get $1 million, to have $1 million insurance policy on some of these inspections I've done. So I simply say, look, I have $1 million insurance policy because I'm serious about what I do. And I have the education, the background to do it. And we're certified and licensed, you know, and I mean, you guys have built my website, so thank you for that. But do you know how many times people call me and say, "Do you guys do small commercial inspections?"
Because you look too big
So
and fancy.
yeah, and I was just like, how many people do you have on your team?
Well, so I also notice, and people can't see from our podcast here if you're listening to it and not watching it, but you have your commercial inspection logo on a
Hmm.
nice button-up shirt.
Hmm.
So, I mean, we've talked about how home inspectors can, and in my opinion, should dress, and even then, we kind of skirt the edge of it. I've told the story about next door. Home inspector
Hmm.
was there, and I just thought it was like the father-in-law. Like he was holding the camera up, and his guts hanging out of the bottom of his shirt,
Hmm.
sloppy shorts, sneakers, and then turns out he was the home inspector. Even in the home inspection industry, that doesn't give you an advantage, but you can get away with it.
Hmm.
When you show up on a commercial job, half the people there have suits on. The other half, have a nice button-up shirt and slacks and clean cut. You
You're
you
not
can't
just
show.
you're just not dealing with like somebody who's buying a house. You're dealing with usually board members. You're dealing with vice
Mhm.
presidents. You're dealing with COOs, CFOs. Sometimes CEOs, uh, engineers. I mean, the amount of people that come um, sometimes to an inspection and walk it with me. I remember the first time I pulled into a parking lot and there were probably about 12 trucks. Because I had stepped out the HVAC, and I was the leader of that, right? Because I had to call all these people, but I pulled in. I'm like, what have I? And by the way, it was one of my first commercial inspections,
Great.
and I was like, gather around, guys, but you just gotta, like I said before, man, the amount of people that come to it, their profiles are different. What they do for the business is different than just buying a house, And if you go joking around with them and all that, you got to read the room. So it's
Yeah.
just it's a different breed of people
So let's kind of pick this apart a little bit.
for sure.
If so dress code, in my opinion, a little bit tighter. If I'm showing up to a commercial inspection, nice tucked in polo at the bare minimum, but a nice button up shirt with the logo on it
Yep,
is going to be a standard in my opinion. Still not
100%.
a tie situation in my opinion.
Nope,
I've seen guys do it. It just looks weird.
don't do that.
Um, your company really should have I personally like to do a DBA, depending on your state, a DBA of my main corporation.
Hmm.
So then it can be ABC home inspections and XYZ commercial inspections fall under the same umbrella. It makes it really good for my scheduling people, for insurance, paperwork, just makes it easier. And everybody talks about liability and all that. I just,
Don't
it's
get me
just not
started.
as,
Don't get me
yeah,
started on the word liability.
yeah,
Because it's like, gee,
everything is liability
this.
and it's not that bad. I've gone 20 years without getting sued, and if you do, it's rare that somebody wins, and it's less than commercial.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's a buzzword for me. That's like it's a pet peeve because I think we hide behind that.
Hmm.
I don't want to do it because it's a liability. You're scared. That's why you're not doing it, right?
Yeah. There's an
You're
old
scared.
proverb. There's an old
So
proverb. I can't go to work because there's a lion in the street.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
there'll always be a lion in the street when we don't want to do something or
yep.
we're scared. Yeah,
So yeah, it's I have a DBA, so it's Bridgetown Inspections, DBA, Oregon Commercial Inspections. So yeah.
perfect. And that works. And then obviously, as you mentioned, we built your website. You have a whole separate website. When people land there, and I said this with Lance Kaufman a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
when somebody lands on a website and they see home inspection, but they're a commercial looking for a commercial inspection, it's like shooting that lead, dragging it into the woods, and then burying it in a 10-foot hole. The lead is dead. You'll just
Yep.
pick up scraps once in a while. We need a
It,
dedicated commercial website.
yep. And I think your workflow is 100% different as well. So
Oh yeah.
I have an entire workflow. I have a process. If you don't have the process and a workflow, you won't succeed. It's fast moving,
Hmm.
right? People are they're not paying 700, 800 bucks uh, for an inspection. They're paying in upwards of a few thousand, at minimum. So it's communication, it's your process, it's your workflow, it's it's all the above, and you should do that in home inspections too. But your follow up, your as soon as I if you go to my website and you go request a proposal, there is there's a questionnaire that they fill out. Right when they get that filled out, it automatically goes into the CRM that I use, and immediately it creates a lead. I get a text message saying that there's a new lead. They automatically get an email saying, "Hey, we have received your request for a proposal, and our team is working on it, and we should get it to you by the end of the day. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for working with us."
That's beautiful. And I think that's a key part of the whole thing. Home inspections, sometimes we cast a wide net and we just get people. So we schedule, we throw out prices, we're driving down the road, just answering questions, throwing out prices.
Yep.
Okay, for a $600-700 inspection, okay, again, we can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
You do that on a $15,000 hotel inspection, you're probably not getting that. When I fill out a form online in a B2B, so business to business
Mm-hmm.
situation, I like a response like you do.
Mm-hmm.
I like to say, okay, we got it. We got this. We'll try to get to you by XYZ period of time. And a day within 48 hours. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy as a business because when I work as a business to business, I expect the same level of professionalism that I give to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Subconsciously or consciously, I don't know. So oftentimes I'll just skip by businesses if they don't have a good process. Matter of fact, there was this company that I was looking. I needed to manage some people for an event. It was like 700 people. Long story. So I wanted to get this software. Oh my goodness, the software looked amazing, but their process was so broken. They had my wrong information. The one lady argued with me about my information, and I'm like, I know my own information. That's not my phone number. That's not what I gave.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff. And then they missed an appointment, then they were late for an appointment. I gave them every chance under the sun, and they blew it every time. And it was expensive software. It wasn't a couple bucks a month or something. It was expensive. We're going to be dealing with people on that level, so we need to have a process, like you said.
Yeah, I think you have to keep in mind the mindset of the consumer,
Hmm.
right, the client. So if you wanted a commercial inspection, how would you want to be? You want to be if you filled out something online. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I fill out something online and like I filled out for I was looking at a list of pool contractors, right? Because there's sometimes these hotels have these pools, and I'm going to be inspecting a rec center, and they have 2 or 3 pools. So I thought it'd be cool to contract that out. We don't have a whole lot of pools in near Portland, and so I thought I'll reach out to this company, and so they had an online form, no phone number, no way to reach them, just an online forum communication thing. So I filled that out. Nothing. I don't know if they received it, if they got it. I've received nothing. By the way, this was last week, and I got no communication, and still I got no communication. So I will never call them again. So when a client calls us for a commercial inspection or they fill out a proposal request, not only are we getting back to them, but the reason why I want to get back to them quickly, sometimes I'll call them too. So, I'll call them as well and say, hey, I know you got an email, but just let you know, I'm James. I'm the owner of Oregon Commercial Inspections, and my team is working on your proposal. Do you have anything that might help us facilitate that faster for you? And they love it, right?
Yeah.
Because what's happening if you don't, they're going to be like me. If I'm calling somebody and they don't respond, even if I fill something out online, I'm also going to a different website.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not calling one person. Like I'm not that naive where I'm like, oh, they're only calling us. So if you can reach out to them first, I learned this in UPS. If you can reach out to them first, then usually the first one will um, get the bite.
Yeah, and I mean that's an important sales principle in general. Is the
Yep.
first one there almost invariably has an advantage if they
Sure.
present well. And
Yep.
you mentioned too understanding the consumer. The mentality of a person hiring a home inspector versus a commercial inspection are very different.
Mm-hmm.
So typically when we're being hired by a person to inspect their home, they are the end person.
Mm-hmm.
We need to impress them.
Mm-hmm.
They hire us.
Yep.
Commercial, it's usually very different. There's usually a secretary or some guy who works on the team getting a contractor. Now, when we show up or we have a report done, we're usually trying to impress for them. So let's say I'm hiring you to inspect a building that my boss said, okay, go find a commercial building inspector.
Mm-hmm.
I need you, James Hooper, to represent me well. Like I need to
Mm-hmm.
have found a good guy so that my boss is like, hey, good job, Ian. That James guy is great. Use him on the next one. So if we're not giving that overly professional, I say overly professional because if we think we're overly professional, we're
Mm-hmm.
probably just at the minimum of what we should be.
Absolutely.
Because the mentality from home inspections to commercial completely different. But we need to impress the person and the person they're trying to impress.
Yep. And it starts from your website. It starts from the way that you communicate. It continues on with the way that you dress and the way that you verbalize issues and items with the building. So it's from A to Z. So it's another thing that's important is you're giving more than just a driveway speech.
Yeah.
There's I'm going to be doing one next week where I'm going to be doing the inspection, but then I have a conference room, so I'll be going over the report in a conference room.
Oh,
This is not just mom and dad and uncle.
yeah.
So this is sharing with the asset manager. This is sharing it with all this are these people, and so you've got to be able to represent yourself.
So that's never actually happened for me. I've never had to present the report in a. Is that common for you or?
That is not common for me, and I don't know where I saw it at. I saw it. I think I saw it online.
Probably with
But
CCPIA, I would imagine.
it's either that or a good friend Lance.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but so I started adding it. So I do charge a fee for that.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So but yeah, and I always offer it. So in my proposal, I always give them a few options, and if I feel like it's one is for a government agency that they don't know what happened to the last guy, and so they found us, and so have a couple booked with it. They have a couple booked with us, and so one of the things that we're wanting to do is share the summary, share the whole report, in a conference room. So
Wow, that's a killer idea. Okay, so anybody listening, write that one down. That is a killer idea. Because basically when we give our commercial report, it's on the responsibilities on the person who received the report
mhm.
to kind of disseminate it, talk about it, ask questions, and they send questions back. You offer to say, "Hey, we'll do a presentation," and especially for things like school systems
Yep.
when you have to present to the board. Um, and man, that's a killer marketing opportunity because everybody in that room is going to be like, "Oh, this is the guy we want."
And imagine it allows yourself to do even bigger inspections, because imagine
Hmm.
doing a large inspection where you have HVAC contractors, and then good ones that you can partner with, electrician or whatever they might, roofing contractor, and you can say, hey, I'll pay you to come with me to help deliver this,
Nice.
and well, $50, fine, I'll pay you $50, you know, whatever the case might be. And that way now Oregon Commercial Inspections has a team, right?
Hmm.
Because they're not looking at it as Oregon Commercial Inspections, A&A roofing company, or B&B, HVAC company. They're looking at Oregon Commercial Inspections as a team of people, a network of
Yeah.
people that will help us get something done. So now when they have an inspection that needs to get done and it's a larger facility, who are they going to call? Who can do
Yeah.
it? Well, no, James gave that presentation and he brought 5 people in. Let's give Oregon Commercial Inspections a call. So
Man. Okay. So that one is definitely one to write down. Offering to present the report to your superiors or whatever, however it works out, or to the board of directors or
Mhm.
school board or whoever it happens to be. I like that idea. But
Mhm.
I got to say, that's where it also takes things to the next level, because now you're not doing a driveway speech as you said.
Mhm.
You're public speaking. That's a whole different skill set.
Yep.
That's a next level skill set. Do you feel pretty comfortable public speaking like that, or?
We won't get into it, but yeah, I um, I, I'll just say this: I used to be a pastor a long time ago,
Okay.
so speaking in front of people, that's not a
Oh,
hard one.
okay.
Yeah,
So you're good with it. A
right.
lot of people, the old, what do they say? Imagine people in their underwear when you're public speaking. By the way, don't do that. It just gets weird.
Look,
But
whenever you have here's a little trick. So if you have 12 people, there's always one person that's kind of like, don't look at the person that's giving you a dead stare the whole time.
yeah, the engager.
Ignore him. Look at the person that's kind of nodding once in a while. You know, that's
Yeah.
who you want to key in on it. And you still should look in the room, look at everybody, look at people's foreheads, look at people's hairline right here.
Yep.
You know,
That was the old Dwight Schrute method. You look at
yeah,
people's foreheads, and from a distance, it looks like you're making eye contact.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. So
So, but never just like look down or not look at people, because
yeah,
people want to be engaged, and that doesn't seem
they want to
engaging.
feel important. So if they're at this meeting,
Mm-hmm.
they have a relatively important role, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if say you're the one that's paying for the inspection, right? It's your
Mm-hmm.
company, it's your bottom line, and I'm looking at everybody but you. You're
Yeah.
like, hello, I'm here too. So I think you got to engage with everybody, and yeah, so I think it's important.
Okay. Well, I think that's a fantastic idea, and it just shows how things really need to go to the next level. I've always said, if you, in the home inspection industry, if you tuck in your shirt, you've already beaten half of your competition. It it's not that simple when we go into commercial inspections, and where I see people fail. So Lance was just talking about this on the show, and I've been talking about for the last 2 years. It's the golden age of commercial
Yep.
inspections. But so many home inspectors, we get into the industry and then we're like, it didn't work out. It's because you just cloned your home inspection company and how you do things there and just gave it a new name and a new website. It is not going to do the same for us.
Yeah, no, 100. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Are there other areas that you see home inspectors kind of being home inspectory in the commercial industry?
So yeah, and this is where I actually wrote a bunch of stuff down, but um, I think one of the things I love, like I love reading and I love podcast like leadership podcasts and business podcasts, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I think the issue that I see a lot of people having is they surround themselves with how commercial inspections evolves and what it takes to do, that. I would challenge people to look outside of that
Hmm.
and look at all businesses practices and how different companies are ran. And I think there's this guy, I think I have his name written down. Let's see if you can. maybe if you've heard of him.
I probably haven't.
You know a lot of people though. So I forgot his name. Oh, Alex Homazi.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you can look him up. He's anyway. He actually reaches out to a bunch of entrepreneurs and business people, and he was asked, what is the business biggest mistake that you see new business people make? And he said they're only studying their business. They're not a student at the game of business.
Hmm. Interesting.
When someone starts a business, they look at their business only. They don't look at anything else. So they look at what's working within commercial inspections, what's not working like this. I would go look at all companies and all businesses on how they're ran, and then apply that to the commercial industry. Don't be so glued to the our business that where we can't grow it. Because here's the thing: is that you say it's a golden era. The sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I this is my office. That's not at my house. So this
Nice.
building actually has 2 conference rooms that I could use. The rent is dirt cheap. It's not pretty on the outside, and they knew that I was a commercial inspector, but it's a place where I can house commercial brokers for them to come in. So I plan to do a whole bunch of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what is not being offered at all that we can offer? Sky's the limit. So you got to almost like think outside the box, if you will. What can we do? We could do. I mean, name it. That's a part that I love. That's a part that I love about commercial inspections right now.
That's interesting. So basically, you're saying sky's the limit. Like we can form the industry, we can make it go where we
Yep.
want. Yeah.
Yep.
It's interesting that you mentioned too. I was writing it down as you were talking about not just studying our business, but studying business in general. That actually kind of has a twofold benefit. Obviously, for us, expand our horizons and expand our business, but it also helps us to understand our clients because they're
Mm-hmm.
business people too.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we understand, KPIs and derivatives and what is ARR versus MRR, and we can have just a casual conversation about that stuff. You're going to be playing golf with them next week, and you're
Mm-hmm.
going to have all their commercial inspections
Mm-hmm.
because we're going to understand them. They're going to be like, "You get it. You get what we're looking for in this building." That's an interesting point.
Be a learner. So if you Lance made a good point of like if he does a lot of churches and all that stuff in that area, and so he's kind of honed in on that skill set for inspecting those, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learn if you're going to go after be the inspector for universities, learn everything you can about how universities are ran,
Yeah.
how they're operated. If you're going to do, um, we have a lot of tap houses and breweries here and stuff like that. Learn everything you can about the process. So when they're looking for a building and they're calling you with a proposal and you can see that it's a brewery, you say, hey, you know what? I know what's important to you. I know that you'll need this, this, and this for ventilation. I know that you'll need the power source with this as to. I don't even know. I don't know a lot about breweries,
Yeah.
But I have a friend who's a brewmaster. But I would ask him, and I would say, hey, let's go for a cup of coffee. I want to pick your brain. If you have a building, what do you need in that building? If you're a school and you're looking for, what do you need? If you're a mechanical, what case might be, just be a learner of other industries, especially when you do commercial inspections, because those industries are looking for property, you're looking for buildings. And if you don't know anything about that specific industry, you're not going to be able to lead them to a building. And the difference between choosing person A versus person B. So if I'm person A, I'm saying, you know what, I know that you'll need X amount of power source. You've already contacted them first. Like, why would they go somewhere else?
And there's a lot of truth to that. There's a good friend of mine. He's a contractor, been a contractor for 40 some odd years. And he's kind of like that. I remember he went with me on a commercial inspection one time. And it was just funny how he just walked in and he goes, "What do you guys do?" "Oh, yeah, I've done construction jobs for they were architects, and he's like, which is funny, architects and engineers, and they hired us. He's like, I've done work for you guys, and on the second and third floor, you're going to rent those out. He's like, well, if you do this, what are you going to do? Blow out that ceiling? They're like, no, we can't. And he goes, then the building's not going to work for you.
Yep.
You can't. You just ruined the rental for anything except for office space. And he goes, that's Romex cable over there and not MC cable. He goes, you can't do that here. And I just remember standing there. I'm just like, this guy's working his magic, and he's just like that. And everybody just felt good about it. They ended up buying the building. They adjusted their plans based on what he said, but he had done so many of things like that, and he understood so much about their business and the buildings in that area in general, even that he could just have that conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
you're right. Yeah. Learn about everything and don't assume that we know.
Yep.
Like we're like, oh, we know how engineers and architects are, yada, yada, yada. We don't. Let's be honest. Unless you're there
Yep.
day to day and you have that background, spend some time with them. Watch how they work. What do they do? What do they need?
Yep.
You know, and I ended up actually working for a lot of architects and engineers after that. And I spent a lot of time. I had a couple of friends that were engineers. I'm like, what do you guys really do here? He goes, oh, well, they're going to be everything is like this one engineering company. They're like, everything they do is underground. So they're going to need places to store all their piping because since it's underground piping, it's not UV protected. You leave that
Yep.
outside. So they're going to need a warehouse. And I'm like, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, they need storage for
Yep.
all this underground piping. But
Yep.
anyways, I digress.
Yes, and I think it's same with anything that you want to offer. We do triple net lease analysis, right? So it's
Yeah.
like I had somebody that was buying a business, but um, they didn't buy. They weren't buying the building. And I said, I go, hey, you know what? I would go over your lease to figure out what's required in your lease, because if you take over that lease and you buy in that business, if it says that you need to maintain the HVAC systems, but they haven't been maintained, or if they said you need to look after the siding, but the siding has a bunch of dry rot. So I said, and then I gave him a price. I said, I'll go over the lease with you to figure out what exactly you're supposed to look at, or take care of. And they loved it. They thought that was wonderful. So again, it's like versus A versus person B. If they don't say, hey, we'll also do this for you. Have you thought about doing this? Even if it's something that you think that they may not be interested in, the fact that you say, hey, have you thought about it from this angle? We did one that's buying her first commercial building, and I've done a lot of home investment for her, but this is her first commercial one. And she
Mm-hmm.
called me up. She's like, "You do that commercial business, right?" I'm like, yeah. So here's the website and all that stuff, and I gave her a proposal, and I said, she's like, yeah, I have a commercial tenant. I just never done that before. I said, here's what you can do. Now let's call her Beth. Okay. I said, Beth, this is what we can do. Is I will inspect the building, and then we'll come up with a triple net. That means that she said, well, what's a triple net? And I said, well, that means they can pay for this, 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 and this, where you have to pay for close to zero. They're responsible for all this stuff. How do I know about that number? I'm like, well, I'll help you get to that number by figuring out the utility bills and the property taxes and all that stuff. So,
And I guess there's another point of why it's an elevated form of home inspections, because home inspectors, we work on, does it work or does it not?
yep.
That's our whole. I mean, I guess it's definitely distilled down, but that's it. Walk into a house, does the door work or does it not? Is the furnace working or is it not? Commercial is such a bigger industry. Just knowing commercial buildings and being able to do a commercial inspection doesn't do things like the triple net lease. And there's lots of other things like cost to cure
Yep.
and many different parts of the commercial industry that we really need to sit down and study. We need to get good at it. And just another plug for CCPIA. If we,
Yep.
well, 1000%, you got to belong to CCPIA. You got to go to all the roundtables and take all the courses and just absorb everything. Because again, if I'm calling James Hooper and I'm calling John Doe, and John Doe doesn't know what a triple net lease is, and you just explained all that stuff, I'm calling James Hooper back to do the inspection and all my other inspection stuff.
Yep.
It really is important.
Yep.
So we're running out of time here, James, but is there anything else that you wanted to share with with our listeners and let them know about the whole transition from one industry to the next.
Just remember this. It's a take it seriously. Like take it. Don't. It's not a. There's a difference between a garage band and in a band that's playing in front of thousands of people, right? I don't want to be a garage band inspection company. I don't want to be the one that's doing it half-ass. I don't want to be doing it part-time. So even if you're doing it quote part-time, act like it's full-time. So I would say take it serious and have it investigate, research it, and be an expert in your field.
Yeah.
So
Those are wise words to end on, James. Thank you very much. Yeah, it make it our whole thing. Be a professional in our industry.
yep, 100%.
Listen, you're a very busy inspector. You took time in between commercial inspections in your remote office to do this podcast with us. I can't thank you enough. Even after we had to reschedule, you're awesome, James. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and hopefully we'd have you back on the show because we'd love to have you again.
You bet, man. I'd love to be back. You're
Thank
awesome.
you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.